Hey everybody, welcome back to Kat's Kitchen. I'm so glad you guys are back here with me for another episode. Today, as you can tell from the title, we're going to be making some more breakfast sandwiches for our freezers. And if you're new around here, I've made many of these breakfast sandwich, videos. You can go check out some more in the playlist on the freezer meal playlist that I have. And today we're going to just be making sausage and bacon, egg and cheese sandwiches. I do have some veggies to throw in. I have some tomatoes, some onion, and some spinach we're going to be mixing in with the eggs. And then I have our tortilla wraps, and I also have some sandwich buns. We're going to slice them in half and make up sandwiches. Those are the two, with those and croissants are the ones that I noticed as far as like the bread products that freeze really well, thaw out really well, and then reheat. So just a little tidbit on that because we have experimented with a few different things. So anyway, we're gonna get this process started. And if you're new around here, what we like to do is we just like to utilize our time the best that we can in the kitchen and get through as much product that we can so that we can stock our freezers to make our future selves and our future lives a lot easier. So in the morning for breakfast for Mark, as I like to have the coffee preset the night before, I like to pull out one of these sandwiches for him so he can take that to work with him. And then obviously I make his lunches as well a few days in advance, usually on a Sunday night, and then sometimes during the week I'll finish off the week with his lunches. So that after we explained all of that, so now we can get into our breakfast sandwiches. What I have here first is our dehydrated potatoes for our hash browns. You can buy these probably just about anywhere. I get them at Sam's Club. What I have here is some boiling water. And so we need to reconstitute these. So I'm just going to cover these little potatoes and then we're gonna set these off to the side. They're gonna take about 20 or so minutes to reconstitute. So that's why I have them on this little towel here. So I'm gonna set these aside for right now. Okay, next what we have is I have my oven heating up to 350 and you're gonna need a little bit of equipment for this just to make your life a little bit easier. Now yesterday what we did is I had already pre-cooked our protein. So I have sausage and bacon in here, layered in towels. I let it cool down and I wrapped it up for today. So our protein's already cooked and ready to go. Now the easiest way I've been able to batch cook all of this is use your sheet pans. And if you have a rack, put a little rack in there and put all your meat on there and just bake it. Bake it between 350 and 375 till it's nice and crispy, and then put it on your towels to drain. And if you don't have a rack, like I had one rack I used and the other one I didn't have a rack, but the one you don't have a rack in, you just kind of have to watch a little bit and drain off the grease, and that way your meat can get brown and it doesn't poach. Okay, so next what we're gonna do is we are gonna work with our eggs here. I have a bowl here. My large bowl is in use right now, so I'm gonna have to do a few batches in my small bowl here. And I'm gonna start cracking some eggs in here, and then we're gonna make some sheet pan eggs. So that's where your sheet pans are also gonna come in handy. So cooking your protein the day before is really gonna save you some steps on the day that you really wanna do this. While the protein was cooking in the oven yesterday, I was able to work, I was able to do things around the house, and I just kept checking on it periodically. But honestly, I went through 3 pounds of bacon and maybe, 3 to 5 pounds of sausage. So that's a lot there. So we'll say 10 pounds of protein. We'll say, 8 to 10 pounds of protein in total. I'm not really sure right off the bat. But I was able to get that done in maybe less than 2 hours while I was doing other things. So now we can utilize our pans for the eggs. So I'm just gonna crack as many eggs that will fit in here, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of milk, salt, and pepper. I'm gonna pour them into our pans, and I'm just gonna give our pans a little bit of a spray here. And then what we're gonna do is chop up our vegetables. Like I said, I have tomatoes, onions, and spinach. We're gonna add that to the top, and then we're going to bake that at 350 until it's basically set. So I'm just cracking our eggs in this bowl here, and as you can see, I did have a few shells trying to creep in the bowl there, and whenever you crack this many eggs, you definitely have a few that will come through. So just use the other shell and scoop out the broken shell that's in your eggs, and that'll help to get that shell out of your eggs there, because like things like to stick with like things. So here I'm just adding in our salt, pepper, and our milk. And if you don't happen to have milk, you can either use cream, half and half. You can also just use a little bit of water. So you can use any of those for substitutions. I know some people don't like to season their eggs until the end after they're cooked. You can also do it that way too. I was just trying to make it a little bit easier. I noticed that whenever I do sheet pan eggs, my eggs don't really get watery, and that would be one of the reasons why a lot of people like to season their eggs at the end. I'm just trying to get a really nice consistency here with our eggs. You want to mix them up until they're nice and homogeneous. Basically just meaning that everything is nice and mixed together and well blended. It's usually the yolks that have a little bit of a hard time sometimes getting beaten up. Next here, I'm just taking our spray and spraying our sheet pans. This is an olive oil spray from Sam's Club. I was actually happy to find that. It came in a pack of 2. It was fairly inexpensive at the time. I'm not quite sure what it is currently. So what I'm doing right now is I'm looking to see how far up the pan my eggs are coming. And this isn't perfectly level, and I don't want to totally overfill it because we are going to add some veggies in there. But right now I'm just going to keep adding some eggs until it comes up about, I'd say about halfway. And then we obviously need some more for our other pan too. Usually what I do is about 1 egg per sandwich, and these are fairly large eggs. So that will give me a rough estimate of how many sandwiches I'll end up with. But I usually don't end up knowing until the end anyway. So here I'm just adding in the rest of the salt and pepper and the milk for the rest of my eggs here. I think I had close to about 60 some eggs. I had a lot of eggs that needed to be used up. I usually buy the 90 count at a time from Sam's Club, and I know that whenever I make these breakfast sandwiches, I end up using quite a bit at a time. So it's really, I get a lot for my value buying it there. Alrighty friends, so this time we're going to make it a little bit easier on ourselves doing these veggie eggs. Before I would saute all the veggies, drain them, and then add them to the eggs. But this time I want to try a little something different to see if this actually works. So I'm going to just place the veggies right on top of the sheet pans and let them all bake at the same time in our oven to see if we can kind of eliminate a step. Okay, so I have our spinach here. I'm just going to sprinkle our spinach over the sheet pan here. And then we'll get to cutting our tomatoes and our onion there. And so what I did is I cleared down. It only took me maybe a few minutes to clear down, put the dishes in the dishwasher. I grabbed a box here for our compost. You can probably see it right here. So I'm putting all the compost things right here beside me so I don't have to walk that far or anything like that. And it makes our job a lot quicker. These are the last tomatoes that I have from the garden, so I'm happy to use them up. I'm glad that, you know, they're getting put to use. And we're just gonna slice the little cherry tomatoes down the center, and anything that's larger than that, I'll either quarter or cube it up a little bit. And we'll just get these going, and then I'm just gonna disperse them on the trays. I'm also contemplating on just adding the cheese right on top of these eggs as well. I have some American sliced cheese to just kind of put right on top of there and let it bake along with the veggies and the eggs. So I may do that as well, just to kind of save ourselves even another step. Because once these cook and set up, we'll be able to cut them like squares out of there. And then they'll be perfect for our sandwiches. And then you put them in whatever bread product you want, and then you can add a sauce if you like. We usually add a hot sauce. There's a special hot sauce we like that one of our friends makes. It's really, really good on eggs. It's made with peaches and habaneros, but it's not too spicy. He does have spicier, more mild ones. It's called Sucker Punch, if you're interested in looking that up. I know he's on Facebook. I'm not sure if he has a website yet, but you can go check him out if you're interested. In really, really good hot sauce. Honestly, you can put it on anything. On eggs, poultry, beef. I put it on tacos. Super good. And he has a few different flavors as well. I'm really happy to have these tomatoes because it's almost December. We're only a few days away from December. And, you know, I still have tomatoes from the garden, even though these are the last of it. But it's really nice to see the fruits of your labor. My garden didn't do amazing this year. However, you know, I was able to get some things out of it. It was the first year for it, so I didn't have tremendous high hopes. I definitely need to fertilize a lot more next year. Okay, so I'm just sprinkling in our tomatoes now. Okay, next we're gonna get our onion chopped up. I want this to be a fairly small dice. And you can interchange any of these ingredients. If you don't like a certain ingredient that I'm using, go ahead and either don't add it, or you can replace it with something that you do like. That's the best thing about eggs, is really, there's so many things that go with eggs. Okay, since I'm doing a small dice in these eggs, I'm going to cut them down the center. And then lengthways. And then cut that nice and fine, and then get a nice fine dice. I may only need half of this onion. Okay, just gonna split this, sprinkle this around. Yeah, I think this half of a medium onion is gonna be perfect for these 2 sheet pans. I think that's going to be perfect. So I'll dice up the rest of this and we'll just keep it in the refrigerator for prep. Alrighty, so here's where we're at right now with our sheet pan veggie eggs. And I'm just going to top this with a little bit of salt and pepper because the veggies are not seasoned. And then I'm going to put these in our oven at 350, and I'm just going to keep an eye on them. They're probably going to take between, I'd say, 30 to 45 minutes for both of these. So here's what our sheet pan eggs look like coming out of the oven. The one got a little more toasty than the other, but they're looking really, really great. Now here what I'm showing you is, because this day is full of breakfast meal prep, I've taken one of my freezer meal meatloaves out of the freezer. I had this thawing because I knew I was going to be cooking a lot on this day, so I wanted something easy to make for dinner. This is a gluten-free meatloaf, and instead of using breadcrumbs as the binder, I used almond flour. And I do have a video and a recipe on that. So I just let that meatloaf thaw out, you know, in the sink until it was ready. Those meatloafs I pack are pretty thin, so they thaw out really nicely. So I'm just reshaping it a little bit in the pan there. And then I'm going to top it with some sauce. Usually I do either a barbecue sauce or a ketchup. I think today I use the barbecue sauce. And then just serving that with a side of veggies and maybe a starch would be perfect. So here I'm just showing you the sandwich buns that I got from Sam's Club. These are from their fresh bakery and they're really good. What I did is I actually bought a couple of these and put them in the freezer until I was ready for them. And then I would pull them out periodically, like if we were having burgers or whatnot. Mark always likes to have a bun with his burger, and obviously I'm gluten-free, so I kind of eat the burger as it is. But I'm using a serrated knife, I'm showing you there. It makes it a lot easier when you have the correct tool. It makes your job a lot easier. So I'll talk about this real briefly. Always having a proper set of knives and cutting boards to use and a bench scraper. I think that those are 3 of the main components when you're working in the kitchen. Those are really, really important. So just a little side tip there. If you are in need of a gift or whatnot and a family member is asking, I would definitely recommend that. That'll make your job so much easier and a lot more effortless in the kitchen. And then learning how to hone and sharpen your knives. As long as you treat them well, they'll treat you well. So what I'm trying to do here is set up a little bit of an assembly line. I'm trying to get all of these buns pre-sliced. Obviously, I'm doing that now. And then I have my eggs laid out to my left. I have my rehydrated hash browns in front of me. I also have the cheese and the sauce in front of me that we're going to be using. Even though I have a very small kitchen and a small space, I do try to make the best of it. So you'll see me here. I'm going to, now that I've sliced all these buns, I'm actually going to reuse the bag for a moment and put the buns back in there just momentarily while I make up some sandwiches. I'm going to make up however many will fit on my board at once. And this is just a way that I'm trying to be as efficient as I can as possible here. So next here, we are going to slice up our eggs. I'm just going to go around the entire perimeter of the pan first to loosen it. And then I'm going to start making some guesstimated cuts. And I say guesstimated because as I had already cut these, I actually needed to make subcuts during the sandwich making process. So just do your best. These can always be cut again, or if you have to splice a couple of egg pieces together to make your sandwich, it's no big deal. This really, we don't need to be a perfectionist about this. I think of it as this is going to be wrapped up into a sandwich. No one's really going to even know what these eggs look like as long as the flavor is there, and that's what we're going for. So I'm just making some nice long slices down to make some rectangle shape cuts. I'm going to do that to both of these pans, and then we're going to be ready to assemble our sandwiches. Alrighty, so here we have our rehydrated hash browns. I'm going to season up these. Normally I cook these in a skillet first, but this time I just wanted to see what we could kind of combine to make this process a little bit more streamlined for myself and for you guys too. I just wanted to test this out. So I'm seasoning with salt and pepper and paprika. And then we're going to use some, I believe, onion and garlic powder and some parsley. Always want to season every single layer that you're working with because that's how you're going to compound and have dynamic flavors in throughout the dish. And if you're uncertain of what seasonings to have in your cupboard, I actually made a video on that of the ones I constantly keep in stock and I use up and buy again. So if you're curious about that, definitely check out my spices video. So I'm just mixing up our potatoes here really, really well. And these potatoes are going to end up going in our wrap sandwich because if we put them on our regular bun sandwich, then I feel like the potato pieces would just kind of fall out because they're so little. But I've put them in the wrap sandwich before and Mark really liked them. It definitely gave it a completely different flavor rather than, without having them. There you can see me tasting a little bit of the potato. The potato's okay to eat at this stage because it has reconstituted. So I just wanted to make sure that the seasoning was on point. Always tasting your food is very important. Here you see I'm bringing over my cheese and my cooked meat that I did from yesterday. Like I said, get creative with these sandwiches and maybe do different meats and cheeses and, different things that you and your family like for your breakfast sandwiches. I know some people make little egg cups. My sister does that. So if you're not, eating gluten or anything like that, if you're keto, that might be a little option for you. What we made in that sheet pan was basically a frittata. So a frittata is a quiche without the crust, basically. And if you really wanted to save yourself some time, you can also add your protein to those eggs and just bake everything all at once. That's another option for you. All right, so here I am. I'm loading up my board with some of our rolls that we're going to be using for the sandwiches. I'm trying to get myself organized before I really dive into all this. Okay, so for these roll sandwiches, I am just putting a piece of our sausage down on each one. And then here's where I'm making my subdivision cuts here just to try to get them to fit a little bit better on the bread product. Next, I'm placing our veggie eggs. And then we'll do a slice of cheese on each, and then a sauce of your choice. You may be wondering why I'm not adding a ton of sauce on these. I'm doing that actually for two reasons. One, this is a hot sauce, so I don't want it to be too hot for Mark. Also, I don't want it to get too soggy either in the freezing and the reheating process that we're going to put these little sandwiches through. We can always add more sauce to them when we're ready to eat them if we'd like to. So there's the first sandwich, and I'm just showing you that I'm going to wrap them up in my paper towel. And then I just kind of press that together, and then I'm going to set that on my pile of sandwiches that I'm going to be making here. I know some people don't like to use paper towels. If you have another option that is easy for me to use, for us to pull right out of the freezer from a freezer bag and then to reheat, please let me know. All I know right now is to use these paper towels, because then what I do is I load up all these sandwiches. I'll mix them all together because they're all going to be a little bit different. That way he gets a little variety. And then I will put them in our gallon size freezer bag, label and date it, and then add it to the freezer. And then we just pull them out as he needs. Usually I'll pull out about 2 to 3 days in advance, but if you need to, you can pull one out either the night before. That'll be fine, and put it in the refrigerator. It'll be thawed out by morning, and then all you have to do is pop it in the microwave for between 35 and 45 seconds. You can also cook them from frozen, and it'll just take a little longer. It'll take about 1.5 to 2 minutes. So you just want to keep an eye on it, and that'll depend on how hot your microwave is. Making these breakfast sandwiches is probably one of my favorite things to meal prep, because you can get so much done within about 2 hours time, and I believe on this day I made almost enough for, let me see here, I believe it was 50 sandwiches if I'm not mistaken. I will say that at the end too, I believe. But that's almost enough for him to have breakfast for almost 3 months worth. So that's really, really good. And Mark works so hard, so this is just something small that I can do to give back to him. And he takes care of me, so I try to take care of him too. So what I'm doing here is just stacking up some of my paper towels to get them ready for my sandwiches. I'm just always trying to think of little things that I can kind of prepare to make, the whole process a little smoother. So after I get done wrapping these up, we're going to move on to, I think I have a few more of these roll sandwiches to make, and then we're going to move on to our wrap sandwiches. So here I'm just showing you, this is the sandwich with the bacon that we cooked yesterday and the egg. And I made up a few of those. And now I'm getting, these ones are a little bit easier to prep. So what I'm doing is putting a paper towel down in each one of my wraps, and I just layer them really, really deep there. As you can see, I do like a whole stack of wraps at a time. And then I'm putting down my potatoes, our egg, our protein. In this case, we're using bacon. I do our sauce and then some cheese, and then we wrap it up. I believe these are the medium size burrito wraps from Sam's Club. Usually they come 2 in a pack for around $12 or $13, and you end up getting a lot in each pack. I make a lot of things out of these. I'll make us quesadillas. You can do enchiladas with these if you like large enchiladas, little burritos, and obviously these sandwiches. Or if we want like a quick taco or something, I'll make him these ones, and then I'll make the corn tortilla ones. And the corn tortilla ones are good too. They just need to be browned up, a good bit, I've noticed. So I'm just going to complete, I'm going to complete this until I've run out of potatoes. I'm just going to keep working on this process. Like I said, this assembly part is actually pretty fun. I definitely encourage you guys to try it out for yourselves. And if you have kids, this is a good, little task for them to get involved into, to introduce them into the kitchen. It's really fun. I've noticed the kids really enjoy helping to make their own food. It helps them learn where food comes from, and then they're not as scared to try new things. So at this point, I've actually broke out the second sheet pan of eggs here. So all up until now, that was just one sheet pan of eggs. So we're moving through this really good. We're going to end up with a good chunk of sandwiches. If you guys are having a party or whatnot for brunch, or family and friends coming into town and staying with you for the holidays, these big sheet pan eggs or these frittata pans are really, really easy and nice to make for a crowd. So that's just something I thought I would mention since we're talking about breakfast here and we're all around the holidays now. Always trying to make our lives a little bit easier in the kitchen so that we can spend more time with the ones that we love. So at this point, I'm switching over to adding sausage to some of these. And I'm just going to work until my potatoes are all ran out, which they almost are. And then for the last bit of sandwiches, I'm just going to do the egg, cheese, protein, and sauce. All right, everybody, so here we are. I did a total count and we have 50 breakfast sandwiches. Those are our wraps here in the back, and then our sandwich bread sandwiches here in the front. So I'm just going to put these, I'm going to mix them up a little bit and put them into my gallon-sized freezer bags. And then I will put them in our freezer. I'll pull out what he needs for the rest of the week, and then I'll freeze the rest. So you can also, you can reheat these from frozen, or you can pull them out the night before. If they're already thawed, he only heats them up for about 35 to 45 seconds. If you're heating them from frozen, you'll probably need about 1.5 to 2 minutes. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye-bye, friends.